Merry Christmas and Happy New Year as you're watching this. It inevitably already is probably a new year as you're watching this. And so maybe you've celebrated New Year's Eve, maybe you're celebrating New Year's Day. Maybe as you've already celebrated Christmas, I'm sure many of us have already celebrated Christmas. We're moving on to the next holiday. And for us as Christians, that next holiday is Epiphany. Epiphany, a day of realizations. Now, for many of us, we kind of overlook Epiphany. It's just the word Epiphany is just something that we say. We have an epiphany, but Epiphany, the day of Epiphany, is indeed important. In fact, the start of the Christmas season for Christians starts on Christmas Day, and it lasts until the day of Epiphany, which is January 6th. And those are the 12 days of Christmas, and that's where we get the song, the 12 days of Christmas, and all the birds and the Lord's leaping and pipers piping and drummers drumming and golden rings and all that stuff. That's what that timeline from Christmas to Epiphany is about, why there's 12 days of Christmas. It is a celebration of Jesus revealing God to us, to those who were kind of outside the Jewish fold in the Gentiles. In fact, the day of Epiphany is actually a little bit more important in other Christian circles, particularly in the Orthodox Church and in Latin America. The day is maybe a little bit more important than Christmas. In fact, in Latin America, the day is known as Dia de los Tres Reyes, or Three Kings Day. And kids get their Christmas presents on Epiphany. They get three gifts on that day because it's symbolic of the three gifts that the wise men gave to Jesus and his parents. And so they celebrate their Christmas 12 days after Christmas, different than us, but still the same kind of idea of celebrating Jesus coming as God in the flesh, being revealed in Epiphany. And so they celebrate it then. These three, what we assume are three wise men, these visitors from the east, either wise men or three kings, or other versions use the word magi. And this word magi is closely related to the words magic and magician. So, anytime you hear somebody talking about the magi, they're talking about magicians. These wise men are studied in the science of astronomy. Now, we think of astronomy and we think of astronauts and we think of the people that run NASA and all that. But in first century Middle East or Near East, these would have been what we would call astrologers. They studied the constellations. Now, we assume that there's three because there's three gifts, so we just assume each wise man gave one gift. But there may have been as little as maybe two or three. There may have been several. We don't know. It just says there were wise men that came from the east, but we hold traditionally that there are three because each one brings a gift. And they come from what we know of in modern day as Iraq or Iran, in the Persian Empire, the Persian and formerly Babylonian Empire. And these wise men had studied the science of astronomy, and they had studied the prophecies of another wise man that we know from the Old Testament in Daniel. The book of Daniel, it talks about Daniel working first for the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar, and then he works for different Persian kings. But he has the ability to interpret the stars and interpret dreams and all these such things. And so he's promoted to getting to be a magi or a wise man. And so as he writes down all these prophecies in the book of Daniel, and he studies the clues that will be prophecies for the Messiah, these wise men in the first century read those same prophecies and they go, well, Daniel's talking about the Messiah. It lines up with this. They've studied the same text. They've studied the same books. They've studied the same prophecies that Daniel wrote. And so that's why they know where to go look and be expecting it. What's interesting as the wise men come to Judea, they first show up and they know that the prophecy is about the King of the Jews, and so they show up to Jerusalem first, and then they eventually make their way to Bethlehem. But as they show up to Jerusalem, there's three distinct responses to finding out that the Messiah has been born. And the first one, of course, is the wise men. They are eager to find the Messiah, and they're going to do whatever it takes to find him. And so they've been traveling probably several weeks and even months to try to find him. They've seen his star appear sometime within a 2-year time frame, and so they sometime in that 2-year time frame go looking for this Messiah. And so they set out on their journey, and they're determined that they're going to find him. That's the first response. They want to go find him, they want to worship him, and they want to give him gifts. The second response is the response of King Herod. Now, King Herod's response is anger. He rejects that there is a new king of the Jews, mostly because it's a threat to him being king of the Jews. And so we find out later that he orders all of the males under the age of 2 to be executed so that there's no threat to his reign. And the third response is the response of the religious leaders. In fact, as the Magi come and they speak to King Herod, Herod's upset and he gets angry and he calls in his wise men. He says, wise men and religious leaders, hey, the Gentile religious leaders or these wise men who've been studying our religious texts, they say there's a new king. Do you all know anything about this? And they say, oh, yeah, we knew all about it. We read the same books they did. He's supposed to be born in Bethlehem, not here, O great king. And Herod says, okay. They say, yeah, we had an idea of where he was going to be born, and we knew that he'd be born to this line and not yours, but we just didn't take it seriously. Probably also they didn't want to anger King Herod, but they just didn't take it seriously. They said, well, it's in there, and it didn't really matter. Didn't mean much to us. We just didn't think it was true because, King, Bethlehem, and he's not going to be born in Bethlehem. We just didn't care. So the reactions are being committed and worshiping Jesus, being angry that there's a way that challenges our way, and then there's just ignoring the way that's not our way and just kind of going along. Now, the Bible speaks about all three of these. The Bible talks about worshiping Jesus for who he is and believing that he is the Messiah, the Christ, the promised one, God come in the flesh. Outright rejecting all of that, turning against it, turning from it, not believing it at all, and then being lukewarm, like the religious leaders. Two of these are not celebrated by the Bible. The one that is celebrated is the wise men. And so that's what I want to talk about today. The wise men, they're determined to go out of their way to find the Messiah. And they find Jesus and realize that it's him. And as they have worshipped him and they realize there is this promise about him, they have a dream. They have a dream, and in their dream, an angel speaks to them and says, don't go back by way of Jerusalem. Don't go back and tell Herod where he's at. Go a different way. You've met the Lord, and so you can't go back the way that you did before. Perhaps even that same angel also comes to Joseph in a dream, and we know Joseph has already had a dream about how to treat Mary and Jesus. And so this angel tells Joseph, take the boy and his mom and get get far away. And so they go to Egypt to hide. But the Magi, the wise men, they encounter Jesus, they worship him, they believe in him, and because of that, they have to live a different way. They have to live a different way. They live differently. God's saying the same thing to us. If we have worshiped and known who Jesus really is, and we believe that he is truly the Messiah, and we accept that, we should live a different way. We should live God's way. God speaks to us and says, you've met the Lord, you've met Jesus, now you need to live a different way. The old should pass away, and behold, all things are new. Be looking for my way. Be looking to go that way. Be on the lookout for an epiphany. So here we are at the start of a new year, and maybe we're not great at resolutions. A lot of us think, I'm going to set a resolution this year, and we say, I'm going to do such and such. And we're good for 2-3 weeks. Maybe we make it the month of January. Maybe. And then we fall off and we go, oh, we did good for those first couple, 3 weeks, month, but yeah, we slacked off. It got hard. We got distracted. Something else struck our fancy. But here's the thing. It's not an accident that Epiphany and the New Year are at the same time. We should have an Epiphany in the New Year and around the day of Epiphany. We should strive to live differently and live better than we were the day before. So here's a challenge for us. Look for ways to be better. Look for ways to worship Jesus in a new way. Look for ways to follow God. See, the wise men, they were looking for ways to understand God. That's why they look up at the stars. That's why they're studying the stars and the constellations. They're looking for that. Now, that's a hobby of mine that I'm starting to get into. And so, I've downloaded the app on my phone, and it has all the star locations and the constellations and the planets. And, I've got binoculars and telescopes so I can kind of look at them. And maybe you do the same. But these wise men, as they're looking for, they're looking up to the stars, and they're looking, and they know them, and they have different names for the constellations than we do. But we can kind of do that. We know where most of the stars and planets are. We can look and we go, well, that big bright one there, that one's big and bright, and it's on this side of the moon. That has to be Jupiter, and that one's kind of bright and it's red. That one has to be Mars, and well, that one looks like a ladle. That's the Big Dipper, and that one's 3 stars in a row. That's Orion's Belt, and we know where they generally are during the time of year and what area of the sky. But if a new star appeared and there was one that was not on there, and we're going, which one's that? What star is that? That's new. We go, we try to look through and we go, new star, and we go on and we look at NASA and we go, NASA discovered a new star, and they named it whatever. Well, the wise men see this new star and they go, oh, we haven't seen it. We've been watching it for years. And in fact, it takes years for us to notice a new star because they're so far away. But they notice this new star and they go, this one's new. We haven't seen it in years. It has to be new. We can finally see it. We haven't seen it for the last 2 years. It must be new. Something must have happened within the last 2 years. Let's go back through our books and see what it might be. Well, we'll call it the King Star. It was in the west. So something must have happened in the west. And they did their math and they went, okay, it takes 2 years to get here. This in the west. And they go, okay, it's probably somewhere here, and they're following it, and they're getting closer, and it's getting right above them. And they go, well, we're getting close. And so they're looking for it. They're determined to find it. If you're looking for something, you'll find it. If you're not looking for it, it probably is harder to find. Now, I know we men get accused of this. Go look for it. I did. Yeah, we look for 2 seconds. We go, I'll look for it, and it's in there. And then the women are allowed to go, I found it. Yeah, I looked there and I didn't see it. Yeah, well, we only looked for 2 seconds. Because we really didn't look all that good. But we have to be looking. To have epiphanies, to be able to find something, for us to be able to realize that we have to be expecting it. Now, sometimes these epiphanies, sometimes these finding things, these realizations, sometimes they're a little like a star, and maybe we don't notice it because there's so many stars. And some are really big, like God has come to earth. The God who made earth, the God who is holy and perfect and does not have need of anything, becomes a helpless baby in Jesus, and understands grief and sorrow and all the ills of this world that he has created and is now in a fallen state. Now, whether it's a star that we don't normally notice, or God come in the flesh, or any other epiphanies that we might have, if we're not looking for them, we probably will miss them. Epiphanies happen all around us. Now, sometimes we have epiphanies and we go, well, it's not really that serious. Or we notice that about somebody else, we have an epiphany about somebody else, and then we realize, wait a minute, the same is true for us, but we don't want to accept it about us. Because that means that we have to change. It means that we have to be different. Everybody else needs to do better, but we don't want to accept it for ourselves. Now, I know a lot of people think, well, it's wrong to ask God for signs. It's wrong to ask for God for signs if it's on condition of something. Like, God, if you will show me this sign, I will do whatever. That's wrong. But God, could you please just show me a sign? Just kind of give me a hint. Kind of just give me a little bit of clarity on it. Can you give me a little bit of a glimpse into if I'm on the right path? Like God, can you just kind of let me see a little bit more of the road? Can you clear out the fog just a little bit, God? I don't think there's anything wrong with asking God for that sign. Now, I know, I'm just as guilty. I want the sign to be great, big, and flashing lights and all that, but generally it's ones that are not well lit and they're hidden behind a tree, street signs. That's usually the way it is. But if you're looking for it, you'll see it. And if you're like me, make sure you turn down the radio as you're looking for it, because turning down the radio helps you focus on what you're looking for. But be looking for it. If you're expecting it and looking for it, you'll find it. When we start paying attention and noticing God's presence around us, when we start being obedient, we feel the nudge of the Holy Spirit. We can help others to be able to have epiphanies. We're able to receive what other people tell us as epiphanies. And so this year, this is the challenge for us. Be attentive. Be paying attention. Help others to pay attention. And to ask when called upon. Don't just reject it. Don't just ignore it. Actually be intentional about what we're doing. And that's how the kingdom of God gets accomplished. Little by little, moment by moment. Don't let them pass by. Instead, live better this next year. Live a different way. Live the way of God. Amen.